Afternoon, ladies. I'm so excited to preach to you today. Apparently, I'm in the Ukraine or in Kiev being held up by gunpoint right now. So if you guys got emails from me today, my Facebook account has been hacked, but apparently that's what's going on. I'm in Ukraine right now. So I got all these calls and texts from all my friends saying, Angela, do you need money to get back from the Ukraine? I'm like, no, I'm about to go and preach, so I don't know what all that's about. So anyway, pray for my Facebook account. Totally Satan. But I'm so excited. I loved studying out Nehemiah, and he became my new hero. He is the man. So he's my new hero. So we're just going to jump right into it, and we're going to start in Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 4 through 7. It says, "When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Then I said, Lord, God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly toward you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses." And then if you move to Nehemiah 2, it's on the screen, verse 11 through 12. He says, "I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others. I had not told anyone what my God had put on my heart to do for Jerusalem." And you guys heard a powerful message by Larry Reed about Nehemiah. And one of the things that I loved about Nehemiah was his innate love for God and God's mission and God's people. You know, he sat down and wept, which showed that he had an inner conviction, to not even see the destruction, but just to hear about it, to sit down and weep. He had an inner conviction and an intimate relationship with God. To have the conviction to do God's will, even when it meant standing alone. He says later that I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do. That's an amazing courage. That's an amazing heart of vision. And he must have been connected intimately with God. He had a commitment to personal righteousness. Larry touched on it. He was like, I confess my sins, the sins of my people, my father's family, my father's sins. Not only was he in tune with being righteous himself, but he even wanted others to be right with God. I mean, isn't this the heart of a great leader? And all of you in this room today are called by God to be leaders. How many of you lead in some capacity in God's church? Okay, so you have the heart of a leader. Studying out Nehemiah is critical to you understanding what it means to be a great leader. Those characteristics I just mentioned, I'm going to cover in my lesson today, but I wanted to start out by asking you a question. What has your God put on your heart? And I want you to take a few minutes. I know you love fellowship, so you get like 30 seconds more right now. With the person next to you, think about this. What has your God put in your heart to do? And I want you to share it with the person next to you. Okay, you get to talk now. Go for it. I know it's hard. No pressure. Okay. All right, I got you going, and now I'm going to stop you. Okay, can I have one brave lady, one courageous Nehemiahite, I don't know, Nehemiah S., share what God has put in your heart to do? Just really loud, just share. And it doesn't have to be long, just be brief. Wow. Thank you, sister, for sharing. That's awesome. So obviously, God has put some things in our hearts, and I love you for sharing that. When I asked myself that question, what I came back with, brace yourself, what God had put in my heart was, I want to see the singles ministry that I lead in LA go from 250 to 1,000 on the coast. But not just to get a big number, but I feel like we are the hope for the world. There's a reason why we were called out, and we're in one of the largest cities with the largest singles population, and I want us to reach those people. And I want single women to find confidence and faith and joy in their singlehood, and to really enjoy, right? And to really enjoy being Christian. So those are the things that God has put in my heart. Those are my personal missions, that God has put in my heart. But a dream, if he's put something in your heart, it's a dream. And here it says, in the quotes behind me on the screen, that a dream is something difficult to attain. Something that takes work, something far removed from your present circumstances. And as leaders, we need to tap into that. It says, I love this quote. Thoreau is one of my favorite authors, but he says, if one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in common hours. Isn't that what happened with Nehemiah? He went confidently in the direction of his dreams. He had an intimate relationship with God, and he was motivated to go and seek God's vision. And then dissatisfaction and discouragement are not caused by the absence of things, husband, but by the absence of what? Vision. We need this. Nehemiah had this. This was something that made me go, he is the man. He really had this. We have to have the heart to pursue God's dream. And it's going to come from being intimately connected with God. And next slide. I have to explain. I need to explain myself. Okay, so I'm a woman, and I'm single, and I have dreams. And some of my dreams look like this. I want an undying love. I want the knight in shining armor. I want the brother to ride in on a white knight, black knight, Middle Eastern knight, Latin knight, Asian knight, to ride in on a horse and rescue me and cherish me and just love me unconditionally. Can you guys relate? Okay, all right. I thought I would get you with that one. But my God came to me, and he became that prince for me. The time that I'm single, he is my white knight, black knight, Asian knight. He is that for me. And I wanted to share with you my story. All of us have a story, and this is the thing that really connects us to God. But I wanted to share with you my story. I'm not an astronaut, but I wanted to be one. I wanted to be the first black woman astronaut. And no one had done it when I was in college, so I decided, why not me? But I was born with a very rare birth defect called Crouzon's disease, and it affected the bones in my face. I was born without cheekbones, and my lower jaw protruded, and I had bulging eyes. I looked really odd. Those of you in the audience who knew me before my surgery know that I looked really different, and I was teased a lot as a little girl. But this produced in me a lot of insecurities, a lot of sins, a lot of pride. I was critical of other people who looked down on me because I was ugly. And this insecurity built in me a drive to want to achieve and to perform to get love. And so that worked well for me because I performed so much that I ended up doing well in school, and I got into Harvard. And I thought, wow, I will become the first black woman astronaut. I'll take an astrophysics class, that's what I majored in, and I'll learn how to be an astronaut. Well, I got into the class, and God had other plans. The professor got up, and he started talking about how there are objects in space, and we don't know how they got there. that they're placed there by the fingers of God. And he was the epitome of what I wanted to become. And here he was telling me there was an end to knowledge, like we didn't know and couldn't know everything. And it opened me up to the two Christians that were in that class, and they invited me to church, and I started studying the Bible, and then guess what? I got baptized. And I met my prince. I met God, and I felt so much unconditional love from God. Do you guys relate to what I'm talking about? You guys were all converted. You all have powerful conversion stories. But I fell in love with God, and I didn't let him go. He was my knight. And I love that God is a game changer. You know, with Nehemiah, that was the key. His inner life was because he'd been changed in some way by God. It doesn't record in the Bible his daily walk with God, but you see it all over Nehemiah. How intimately he loved God and how he was on a journey to pursue God's vision for him. You know that thing that you shared earlier about what God put in your heart? That's his vision that he's given you. And you need to be intimately connected with God to see that through, right? We need that. And so as leaders, as women, as disciples, I charge you to be in tune with God's perfect plan for your life. It may lead you in directions you did not expect to go. But it's the first lesson of being a great leader. If you want to imitate Nehemiah, that's what he had down. He had an intimate walk with God. So whatever you need to do this weekend to grab hold of God, whatever you need to do to be in touch with his vision for you, do it. And he has a vision for you. I wanted to read this quote by Michelangelo. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but it is too low and we reach it. And I love that quote. Michelangelo, what? He also said that out of a perfect or imperfect piece of stone, he could see the sculpture that was within it. So he would chip away, that first image right there. He would chip away until he brought out beautiful pieces of art. I feel the same way about God. That's how he works in our life, right? All of you are beautiful creatures with beautiful stories. You love God enough to lead in his kingdom. And you're single, most of you. I love that. I love that God is doing that in our lives. But what he did in my life is, like I said, I was born with that birth defect, Crouzons. It no longer defines who I am. I just love sharing about how God changed me. But I was born with Crouzons, and that's me in the middle picture, like with my birth defect. You can kind of see how my face looked different, right? Sort of, kind of. They're like, no, okay, come on, people. I look different. But then God moved me to LA. I decided not to become an astronaut. I became an architect, moved to LA, and lived 1 block away from the only surgeon who could perform that surgery. He performed successful surgeries. He also had happened to be trained by the doctor who diagnosed me as a little kid. Just happened to be. And he did my surgery for, yeah. So he gave me this whole new face. So that's me in the picture on the right. I'm the one with the white hat. It was drastic surgery. No, but he totally transformed me. And that was God answering my heart prayer as a little girl. What? On top of saving me and giving me unconditional love, he gave me a desire of my heart. That's the God you serve. That's the God you need to be intimate with. And that's the God that you need to pursue the dream he's put in your heart. So do you, as leaders, as women, have the conviction and the fortitude and the trust? I love that word, fortitude. It's like my new favorite word. And the trust to follow along with the Maker's plan for your life. You know, whatever it was that you shared earlier, go after it. Don't be hindered from it. Partner with God in his vision for you. Okay, if you have a dream, God is definitely, it's probably a high and lofty one, because that's the way God works. And so he really wants to elevate you. Okay, notice the use of the theme of the conference in the lesson. elevate. I got it in there. Just notice that. Okay. Um, he wants to elevate. He wants to raise you to new heights. And I was an architect for 12 years, and I know something about going up high. The two buildings there, the one on the top is the Chicago people in the house. Chicago Memorial Hospital. That was my project. And it's 23 stories. It's the largest children's hospital in the world. And then the second one below it is the UCLA Medical Center. And both of them are tall buildings, but in order to get them to go up, guess what? We had to go down. I mean, deep with footings and columns. I don't know any of you in my industry, but it took a lot to get those buildings built. So the obvious spiritual analogy is, it's going to take a lot for you to achieve that what God put in your heart. Just like it did with Nehemiah. Just like Larry said, it's going to take hard work. And you might need to go to some deep and possibly scary places. I know some of you, I look in the audience, I know some of your stories. Some of you are facing terrible situations, like hard challenges, grief, loss. You're facing all sorts. These are the tools that Satan will use to try to take you out. But they're also, amazingly, the tools that God will use to help you achieve your dreams. How does that work? Because our God is powerful. So whatever you're going through, let God elevate you and raise you up to where he wants to go. And that means you got to be willing to go to the deep and the scary places, just like Nehemiah was. Okay, Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 16. I'll try to read this. Sorry, I do need glasses. I'm in denial. You see the trouble, we'll start at verse 17. You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. And then later in chapter 3, verse 5, the next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. Now, when I read those two passages together, and I love how Nehemiah is starting to work on the wall, he's telling the officials, this is the plan. He's got a strategy. It's all motivated by his inner connection to God and his deep convictions about what he knows God has put in his heart to do. And he's all fired up. He's passionate. He's got the strategy. He's going to the officials, and he's telling them, God is with me. The king has sent me with letters. He sent me with all the stuff we need. His gracious hand has been on me. And then what does he face? Right away, they get working on the wall. The men of Tekoa are working hard, but what are the nobles doing? Not putting their shoulders in the work. That must have been so frustrating for Nehemiah. Wouldn't that be frustrating for you? And I want to share from you from my life that I've been on both sides of this. I've been the frustrated one, and I've been the frustrator. No, the cause of frustration. So I want to share a little bit about my story. After being a Christian for 20 years, and after God healed me, physically, I showed you what he did in my life, I had the nerve to forget about God. He gave me my heartstream, a new face, new body, and I basically was grateful for a short time, but then almost threw it away. And I became that Christian. I was a noble. I had the ability to be a leader, and I, didn't put my shoulder to the work. And so I wanted to share with you that I started dating a non-Christian man. I let my job as an architect become my God. I became critical and bitter, self-righteous, and I personally almost destroyed the dream that God had for my life. Sorry. And then I exchanged his dream that he put in my heart for my own dreams. But at the height of my betrayal and the height of my idolatry, God's gracious hand came on me. He actually made me become very ill. I almost died from bacterial meningitis. I lost my job as a result of my illness, and my boss gave my job to his girlfriend. I lost that non-Christian boyfriend, and then I lost my father. He passed away. And his gracious hand was on me. And I can say gracious because he was gracious. I gained God back as a result and put him first again. And a short time later, after my repentance, guess what? I returned to God and he put me in the full-time ministry. What? And then not only that, he said, okay, now you can be a women's ministry leader on top of that. I just can't even believe God. His gracious hand was on me. I mean, he'll work this way with you, and he'll work this way with you. And that's what I really love about God. And he did the same with Nehemiah. And I wanted to share really briefly about our ministry in LA. It's a ministry about 250 along the coast of LA, and I lead with Marco and Michelle Pelizzeri, who are awesome. But our ministry was in shambles in 2009. There was really no numerical growth or spiritual growth, really. I mean, we had some people holding it down, but it wasn't thriving. Dating was not even in existence. People were going outside of the kingdom to date. The commitment to the body waned. We had midweek services, but not many people attended regularly. It was just in a sad state. But God put it on the heart of people to really go and rebuild the singles ministry. And we started just like Nehemiah, just going in, getting people turned back to God, putting people to work on the wall. And God did amazing things, you guys. Like, now it's a thriving ministry. People love to go to midweek. We've had a great group of people I wanted to share about who are our leaders, who not only is there just, the leaders who are in full-time ministry, but all of these people that serve, work 40 hours a week, full-time jobs, but then come home and lead ministries. Like, I just love, these 18 are like my heroes in the faith, and God just spread that through the fellowship. You are those heroes in the faith in your ministries. In addition, like, God rebuilt us in helping us have training times together and planning times together. This is us at a retreat in Big Bear. For the first time ever, singles kicked off the year with their own workshop, like single-led workshop. It was awesome in 2013. In addition, we have an annual retreat that we go to every year, a Catalyst Retreat, and it produced so much fruit, like spiritual fruit inside and then numerical fruit. In addition, these are all the baptisms. We had a lot of baptisms, though, the last 5 years. Like, on average, like 20 to 25 a year. Like, God just started rebuilding that wall. And then marriages. We had about 80 marriages in the last 5 years. So coastal LA is not too far away if you want to come. Shameless plug. We had a lot of events that started rebuilding our, even our heart to worship. Leadership training classes. Before at midweeks, we'd have hour of that. We had congregational events, which our Devo at the beginning of the year was the kickoff event, our Catalyst Retreat. Sorry, I'm trying to talk fast to go with these slides that are moving. Our Kaleidoscope was a talent show that Kimba Henderson put on that all the singles in the entire congregation would go to. In June, we had our internship training program, which people from around the congregation would come and get trained on being in ministry. Day of Health and Fitness, which Orange County put on, and then our New Year's Eve parties. All of these things really elevated the entire singles ministry. We learned so much. And then came the opposition and the challenges from Satan. And I'm going to try to wrap up. How much time do I have, Lynn? 3 minutes. Okay, girls, we're about to cruise through this last bit. But I had several challenges. The church went, in the west side part of our region, had major conflict between the leaders and the members. It was really hard, very sad. In addition to that, I had no co-leader and leading the singles. A lot of the men that were leading with me had to step down for a variety of reasons. Then I incurred a lot of health problems. And then my mom got Alzheimer's. And so all those things happened, I felt like that. I was in the middle of a fire. But God is really great, you guys, because he, gave me this example in Nehemiah where Nehemiah is facing opposition from Sanballat and Tobiah, and they're saying horrible things like, you know what? The wall, a fox could tear down that wall. You're never going to do it. You're never going to complete it. And during this time of opposition, all of these things Satan was trying to use to destroy my faith in the vision that God had put in my heart. And that's what he'll do. You're probably going through challenges now as a leader. Recognize it as a time of testing by God, but also a time where Satan is trying to destroy your faith. Don't let him do it. And I had to have the heart to stand alone. But we're never really alone, right? You know, here, what does Nehemiah say? He says, "Hear us, O God, for we are despised. Turn their threats back on them." I love that. And that's what we need to imitate as leaders. We need to have that heart, that conviction, and that courage to stand up against opposition in whatever forms it comes in, to remove our dreams with faith, unshakable faith. And then Nehemiah also had the heart to deal with situations. I'm going to be really quick on these, so hopefully you get the points. But in those two passages that are up on the screen, one situation was they were working on the wall and they were separated and divided on the wall. And so there was a challenge to completing the work. So he came up with this brilliant idea. You know, how many times in our ministries you face a problem where you're like, God, I don't know what to do with this situation. I don't know how to fix and help the single parents. They're on my heart. I just don't know. It's like, oh, you just get overwhelmed just thinking about it, right? Like God gave him a creative way to deal with the situation. And he will do that with us as leaders. In addition to that, he had some flat out sin going on with the nobles and officials. They were charging the people kind of usury, right? They had exorbitant wage or expenses. And so he called a meeting, and I love this passage. I called a meeting to deal with them. You know, as leaders, don't we need to sometimes deal with the situations? We need to deal with the problems in our ministry. Okay, and so I want to finish. Sorry, guys, I'm running out of time. But God will bring out of the wildfires a tremendous time of growth and healing. And that's what happened in our ministry. Right now, Angela can attest to this. We got women coming out of the woodwork, and I had the worst year of my life spiritually. And we got women coming out of the woodwork. I just got a voice message the other day. I was rooming with Angela, and I played it. This woman is like, I just want to let you know, I really want to turn myself into God, right, Angela? And I'm like, and this has been happening throughout the week. You know, God has been bringing these people. Just recently, a woman got baptized named Michelle about 2 weeks ago, and then another woman, Irma, got restored. And God has just been blessing. So he brings beautiful things out of our time of opposition and out of our hard times. And then in conclusion, we need to have the heart of integrity. You know, as women, we need to imitate Nehemiah. He had so much integrity. As the governor, he was allotted a certain amount of food. But in this passage, he says, I don't want to take it because I don't want people to suffer for it. You know, he knew that him demanding it would cause people harm, and he had that kind of integrity. As leaders, we need to look at God's people in that way and have that heart that has a personal righteousness. Well, I won't take anything if it's going to cause someone else harm. And not just in that, but in everything where we can apply that principle of having integrity. And then I'll just read down to verse Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 17. From all those things about his character, all the things that he did, the way he pursued God's dream, this is the result, if I can read it. From the day of Joshua, son of Nun, until that day, the Israelites had not celebrated like that, and their joy was very great. If we want to see that happen in our ministries, let's be committed to pursue the dream that God has put in our hearts, and also let's be committed to do it with